Hello, everyone. This is Josilia Williams sitting in for Dr. Ralph Canty, and welcome to Native Drums. On this evening, we have our special guest, and that is Dr. Larry Jackson. Dr. Jackson has been our former superintendent of Florence School District 1 schools. Welcome to Native Drums, Dr. Jackson.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here on today. As an educator, you have retired. You've retired 15 years, you said?
Yes.
Wow.
I say that proudly.
I know you do. I know you do. So what have you been doing, within those 15 years and presently? Tell us currently what you're up to.
Well, first of all, I'm glad to be here.
Sure.
I had worked in public education for 30 years. I know I don't look it, but I
You
had
don't.
been around a while. I had been around a while. And I just reached a point where I felt like, I had given all that I could and wanted to do something different. And so I was coming off of having lost my first wife. My daughter was very ill at the time, and she ultimately passed away. And so I had a lot of personal issues that I was dealing with, and I thought, I can't give to the school district what I had been giving before. So I needed to kind of decompress and get away for a while. And so that was my plan, was to just take some time for self.
Right.
And so in the interim, I remarried and started a new family, and then started to get the itch again, and had been doing some work for I was the education chair for the state NAACP,
Okay.
and then was also working with the local NAACP in the education side. And so that brought some reward in trying to deal with some of the inequities that currently exist in the public school system. And then maybe about a year and a half or so ago, an opportunity came where there was an opening at the PEE DEE Education Center for the executive director's position. So I thought, that might be something that I would be interested in, because I had been a board member there for a period of time. And
Okay.
so that opportunity presented itself. And so I applied for the job and was blessed to get it. And so that's what I've been doing for the last year and a half, is the executive director for the PEE Education Center.
So you're back in the saddle
Back
again.
in the saddle again. It's kind of like riding a tiger. Once you get off, you're glad to get off, but then the challenge becomes, how am I going to get back on? Because he's got fangs and teeth, and so. But I waited until, kind of like doing double dutch. You kind of wait till that time and then you
There
jump
you go.
on, and so that's what I've done. So I found that to be very, very rewarding and kind of taking the place for what I had been doing before.
Well, great, great. It's good to know that you're back in the saddle.
Thank you.
We're glad
Thank
to
you.
know that. So, as we were talking earlier, so as an education professional that has worked in different facets of education, and what are some of the things that have remained to be true in education over the years?
I would say the most seminal thing that I believe makes for an effective educational system is for the educators to know the student.
Oh, yes.
There's an old saying that I used to subscribe to that said, a good teacher is a student of the pupil's mind. And by that I mean that in order for me to educate you or to get you interested in what I'm trying to teach you, is I need to know what makes you tick. I need to know about you. I need to know
That's
what your
right.
interests are. I came from the old school of, we would do interest inventories. Before, if a kid were in my class when I was a school teacher, the first day I would give them an interest inventory, and on that inventory would be things like, tell me what you like, tell me what you like to do, how do you spend your free time, what are you interested in, what do you like, video games, or do you like sports, or do you like needlepoint, whatever it is. And then I'm going to use that information to teach you. I may incorporate something
Yes.
that you like into the lesson that I'm trying to teach. So if you're going to be effective, and this transcends generations, it transcends time, and that if I know what makes you tick, then I can reach you. If I'm just being sterile and saying, okay, we're going to learn how to do long division, you're going to go, I'm not into long division. But if I relate long division to something that you're doing, if you're a baseball player and I say, I can teach you how do you determine what your average is in a baseball game, I might get your attention. And I think, as an educator, and particularly for parents who are engaging with teachers and education professionals, you need to have some non-negotiables. I've got a sister who was a principal in Orangeburg. In fact, she was the first black female principal at Orangeburg Wilkinson High School.
Okay.
And there was a reunion. She'd been retired now almost 30 years, but they had a reunion a couple of weeks ago. And several of her former students, now again, she's been gone for 30 years, but several of her students had a T-shirt with her picture on
Wow.
it. And at the top of the picture, it had non-negotiables. Because that was something that we learned from our mother, and that was there's some things that are non-negotiable. And for parents who are watching this tonight, let me tell you what some of the non-negotiables are. I am going to know who your friends are. I'm going to know who you're hanging out with. I'm going to know who you talk. I'm going to know who you're associating with. You will do homework. That's your job. When you're still living in my house as a child, that is your number one job. You're going to do your homework. Number 3 is you're going to be in church. We're going to go to church. You're going to have some spiritual background for what it is that you're doing. Again, these are all non-negotiables.
Yes.
You're going to be respectful of time. When the sun goes down, you're in the house. Again, non-negotiables. These things transcend generations. And if parents, I always would tell folks, education is like a 3-legged stool. On one leg, you've got the teachers. On the other leg, you've got the administrators, and the third leg is made up of the child and his parents. And if you've ever gone to a restaurant and you put your food on the table and the table is unbalanced, it makes for a horrible meal.
Definitely.
And so if you've got a stool that has 3 legs and one of the legs is not carrying its weight, not going to work. So those things transcend time. And if you were an effective teacher an effective student when I was in school, those things still apply, and they still apply today.
Yes, they do. We need to make more T-shirts.
Yeah, non-negotiables.
Non-negotiables.
These are your non-negotiables.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you answered. You touched on the second question I have about teachers utilizing to foster the success of children, and you talked about it a while ago. The teacher needs to know the child.
Yes, that is critical. Because if you think I know you, or here's an example. I was taking a graduate course, and all of us have taken graduate courses, and you go in and they give you an index card, and they say, "Oh, put your name, your address, your contact information on this index card." Well, the course that I was taking, the instructor had us to fill out the index card. We did that. And then the next class meeting, she said, "Larry, how's your daughter?" And I thought, how does she know? Then I remembered that I had put that on that index card. But she personalized just that one thing. So from that point forward, I sat up in there and I was eager to participate and she did this the whole time. And then she had a map in the classroom, and she had us to get up and pinpoint on the map where we all lived.
Okay.
And she said, "If I'm ever in the area, I'm going to stop by and see you." And she did that. So again, she was modeling for us how to be an effective teacher. Is I need to show you that I'm interested in you. You have more value to me than just being a student. I'm interested in your well-being. And if we had more teachers doing that, then I believe some of the ills and some of the issues that kids are facing, they would feel more comfortable talking to you and saying, because you've shown that you've got a vested interest in me as a student, then I feel comfortable sharing with you. Or I would also tell my employees that parents aren't keeping all the good kids home and sending us the bad ones. They're sending all of them.
Yes.
We don't get to pick and choose who's coming, but we can make that burden a lot easier if we pour time and energy into them. The end product is going to be what today we had a meeting with some representatives from the State Department going over test scores, and one of the key factors was poverty and kids of poverty, and how but what we've seen is that schools that are engaging, their success transcends poverty. Those kids that have those schools where educators are heavily involved in kids, their test scores are off the charts. We've got a local high school here in town. I can't say which school because these scores are embargoed. They won't be released until Monday.
Okay.
But I can tell you that there's one local high school that would be deemed a school of poverty, but their test scores are off the chart. Are off the chart.
Wow.
And I'll give you a hint. The school's colors kind of look like the colors that I'm sporting here tonight.
Okay.
But there's test scores can compete with any other school in the state.
Wow.
A school that celebrated a homecoming recently.
Of course.
But I won't name the school. But it's that kind of engagement on the part of
Right.
teachers that makes all the difference.
That's awesome. That is awesome. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. So, for our viewers, please take this in what Dr. Jackson is saying when it comes to your children and when it comes to the teachers of your children and the non-negotiables.
Right.
Definitely, definitely. And I'm serious about that, teacher. We need a list of
These are your non-negotiables.
non-negotiables. Definitely. Now, let's talk about this educational scholarship trust fund that the legislators have, this law that has been passed. So there are mixed reviews and feelings about this trust fund and about the voucher system. So can you speak on the pros and cons
Yes.
Of these distributions?
Sure. I guess one of the pros could potentially be, this is no more than choice. And of course, I like to be able to choose, to make my own choices. And so, for example, if I go to the grocery store and they've got several different kinds of milk there, I want to be able to select the milk that I want. I don't want
Yes.
someone telling me, you've got to purchase this kind of milk.
Right.
So from that standpoint, school trust vouchers can be construed as a good thing. But now I'm going to be heavy on the not so good things.
Okay.
Because I believe in public education. I'm a proponent of public education. I went to the public schools. I worked in the public schools. So I'm always going to be a proponent. And so when the General Assembly first rolled this out, they were going to do it with tax dollars. And so in the first iteration, it came out using tax dollars, and there was litigation against it. And so the South Carolina Supreme Court ruled that vouchers could not use tax dollars because some of these were going to parochial schools, and so there would be a separation of church and state. So the South Carolina Supreme Court said you can't use tax dollars to fund these vouchers. So the General Assembly decided, well, how can we get around that? And so they said, well, wait a minute, we can use lottery money. Those are not tax dollars, so we can use lottery money. So that's what they've done. And so I'm just concerned that we will have a mass exodus from public schools. And those who can will take advantage of that. And as this happens, schools are going to be browner and blacker than they've ever been. However, I think there's a panacea for this, and I think that if you and I were talking earlier about the role that I believe the African American church can play in filling some of these gaps. We know that there's a movement across this nation to change the face of public education, and not only to change the face of public education, but the curriculum, that what's being taught. So we need to be concerned about who's teaching it and what's being taught. And so the concept, for example, that's one of the concepts that has been fostered in some of the curriculum that the State Department of Education has looked at is slavery was not such a bad thing. Well, let's ask the slave that. I think he or she would say, I beg to differ. And so just like there are lots of folks who are taking advantage of these vouchers and money, why not have our churches say, well, you know what, we can do that too. So,
Yes.
Why can't Savannah Grove Baptist Church start a school? Why can't Savannah Grove Baptist Church take advantage of these resources? Because other folk are doing that. So this door that has been opened, there's an adage of, I can beat you at your own game. So what you're doing, you know what, I can do that too.
Yes.
So there's some good in it, but I think that we need to, as African Americans, we need to take advantage of these opportunities.
Yes.
We've got a society right now that I believe is trying to rewrite our history and whitewash our history. And so in order to combat that, we should get these resources. We should teach our children. We should take the place, stand in the gap for those things that are not being taught for our children. And we can do that with or without resources, but you and I both know it would work a lot better
Yes.
if you had resources, because then you could hire staff, you could do all these things that these other folk are doing. So I challenge us, I challenge every African American church that's watching this podcast, that invest in your children. Look at what you can do to combat this attack on public education.
Yes, that's great. And like you said, there are churches out there that are doing it.
Right.
In Columbia, my daughter is involved in the church. It's called Soaring Eagles Christian Academy.
Exactly.
And they have the children there are just awesome, and they are hands on, and it's a wonderful thing. So you are correct.
Yes. Let's there's an old carpe diem. Let's seize the day.
Yes.
Let's when you give me lemons, I'm gonna make some lemonade out of it. So let's take advantage of this opportunity that other folk are also taking advantage of. So the onus is on us to do what we can while we can.
Yes, yes, great. So now let's look at this. How does the state of education now compare to how it was when you first began your journey as an educator?
Wow, it's an excellent question. It has changed dramatically because I can remember, as a school teacher having to do lesson plans and trying to pull resources from here or there. And I tell people this story. My mother, I was blessed to have I loved my mother because she was such a role model for me. She only went to the 6th grade, but she wanted me, and this is a common denominator that I share with people all the time, is that I don't care what child that you've got in front of you. If you were trying to relate to the parent, there's one seminal question that you can ask, and that is this: ma'am or sir, would you want your child to have a better life than you've had? I don't care what else is out there, but if you ask that seminal question 9 times out of 10 or 99.9% of the time, the parent is going to say yes. So then, okay, well then what can we do together to make that a reality? But anyway, my mother, again, to date myself, she bought a set of World Book encyclopedias. I think everybody had those back in the day.
Yes.
And so she said to me, every night before we go to bed, you're going to read from this encyclopedia to me. And so I went from the letter A all the way to the letter Z.
Wow.
But to answer your question, so we were using encyclopedias. Well, now, you've got a device, that within seconds you can pull up information. And so the use of technology is just amazing, and the resources that are available right now. And one of the things that we do at the PEE DEE Education Center is that we provide training for staff on how to utilize this technology. And so we had a lady come in last month, and she was showing how to create a lesson plan, pulling from all of these different resources and having video on demand, so you're not having to pull it from a book. I mean, it's right. You've got a screen up, and you're pulling information, and you in real time. If you're talking about the Gettysburg Address, for example,
Right.
I mean, you could pull up and have a video of someone actually reading the Gettysburg in real time.
Right.
And so the use of technology has just changed the landscape dramatically. However, I would caution the audience about this: is that what you've got and what I've got is just a tool.
Yes.
It's not the end all or be all. It is just another resource, no different than your car or the blender that you use to make a cake. It is a tool. That's it. And do not, if you don't listen to anything else I say tonight, do not let this raise your children.
Oh, yeah.
Do
That's
not
right.
let this raise. It is a tool, nothing more, nothing less, and it is a resource. When I was a kid, I was the first person at school every day. I lived right behind North Vista Elementary School.
Okay.
I was the first person there every day. And the librarian was nice enough, because she got there early, she would let me come into the library and I would read. And so when I became superintendent, I was visiting North Vista one day, and I said, I'm going to go see if I can find a book that I checked out when I was a child.
Oh,
here.
my goodness.
So I went to the card catalog. Again, this was before they had evolved to technology.
Right.
I went to the card catalog and found the name of the book and went to the shelf, and I found the book.
Oh.
Found the book. I opened the book, and the card that would be in the back of the found the card in the back of the book, and guess what?
Your name
My name was
there.
still on it.
Isn't that something?
And I was happy, but then I thought, no one else has checked this book out. And that bothered me, because I thought, as a child, I'm an old man at this point,
Right.
and I thought, nobody else has checked this book out. And so it bothered me because I thought, my going to the library then, we were poor, didn't have a lot, but I could go to the library and I could go to Italy or I could go to Europe or I could go anywhere through reading or through the resources. So parents have, again, as a parent, you need to know what your child is doing. You need to know what they're reading, what technology they're using.
That's right.
Because it could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. And there are people on that are wanting to raise your children if you let them.
Yes.
Who want to get involved with your children if you let them. So to answer your question, technology, it's like night and day.
And that leads to my next question about the pros and cons to the heavy use of technology in instruction today, and then and also AI. I want you to talk a little bit about that because sometimes when I'm using AI, I feel like I'm cheating.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh wow.
Well, I part of what I do every day at work is I get to work early, and I read all these educational journals, and then I send this information out to our superintendents. And so the article that I sent out yesterday was about AI and its pros and cons,
Right.
and that we have to be very careful. You've got kids who have allowed AI to write their term papers,
Right, that's
or to
what I'm
write,
talking
and
about,
so you have to be very careful to not let that take the place of going to the library and doing research on your own, and not letting technology do all of the work for you. And so that is a tremendous concern. Here's another example. I was talking to superintendents today, and I was trying to relate a story to them. And I said, I'm an avid reader, big time reader my whole life. And so I was saying to them, and since it's Halloween coming up, that Washington Irving wrote The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And that the title character in that story is a man named Ichabod Crane, who was a school teacher. But that I said to them, did you know that the name Ichabod appears in the Bible? And they were like, what are you talking about? So, yeah, it appears in the Bible in 1 Samuel 4:21. There's a story about someone named Ichabod. And Ichabod was, the man was named Ichabod because the Philistines had stolen the Ark of the Covenant. And so Eli's daughter was so distraught over that having happened, she named her son Ichabod. And the name Ichabod means without worth or without value. And so I was saying that all children have value, and that as a teacher, as an educator, we need to see the value in these children. And that I would not have known that had I not researched it. Had I not utilized some technology, figured I could have gotten the Bible and thumbed through it and tried to find it, but I could put in a search about Ichabod, and I found out that Ichabod's name appears in the Bible. So, using technology can be a good thing, but we have to monitor, and educators are going to have to monitor to make sure that the child is the author of whatever it is they're turning in.
That's right, because I feel that somewhat it may dumb us down.
Yes.
We aren't utilizing our gifts or our brain.
Exactly. And so here's another story that I tell folk all the time. Again, L. Frank Baum wrote The Wizard of Oz, and there are 5 characters in that story. I think it's 5. It's Dorothy, the Scarecrow, the Lion, and the Tin Man, and Toto.
Right.
And so, in the story, they go off on a mission and they get the broom and they bring it back. And so then they discover that the wizard is just a man behind the curtain. But what he does is he comes out and he says to Dorothy, he says to the Scarecrow, you know what, you wanted a brain, so I'm going to give you a diploma. And all of a sudden, the Scarecrow becomes smart. And then he says to the Lion, you wanted courage, so I'm going to pin a medal on you, and all of a sudden, you're going to be courageous. And then he says to the Tin Man, well, you wanted a heart, so he pins a medal on him that was the shape of a heart. And all of a sudden, he becomes compassionate. And then he tells to Dorothy, you wanted to go home, but you had the ability to go home all the time. But the question is, did he give them something that they didn't already have? No, they had it already, but they needed somebody to bring it out.
To prime that pump.
Yeah, so that's what teachers, that's what educators are supposed to do. There's something of value in every child. There's no child who's an Ichabod.
That's right.
But there's some value in each child, and then it behooves the educator to get it out.
Amen. 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 My last question is for parents. What can parents do to supplement their child's learning?
Well, I go back to those non-negotiables.
There you go.
I need to know, I mean, do you have homework tonight? No, yes, you do. But I don't, yes, you do. Well, but we've already, no, you do. And so if you've done it already, then I want you to read ahead. I want you to look ahead. Look, there's something that I heard Dr. Candy talking about recently called vision casting. And vision casting just means looking beyond where you are right now,
Right.
looking ahead. And so parents, have your child look ahead. Our granddaughter was back during COVID. She was she was with us, and she was studying here in Florence. She was enrolled at a Florence school, and then her mother got transferred to England. And so they moved to England, but we decided that because she was already enrolled here and they were virtual, that she could just continue virtually from England.
Okay.
So, but we said, don't tell anybody, don't tell your teachers, because they won't know where you are. All they'll know is you'll log on, just like everybody else in Florence is logging on, and you'll just participate in the lesson. But don't say anything.
That's right.
So they happened to be studying. They were in England, so they happened to be studying something about Westminster Abbey and Buckingham Palace, and so she couldn't hold it anymore. She said, "I pass by that every day.
Oh.
I pass by that every day." So, of course, we had to explain to the folks here in Florence, she's not in Florence anymore, but by that time, the year was about over.
Okay.
And so it worked out. But again, getting engaged with your children, giving them some experiences. Don't just rely on the school. As I said, it's a three-legged stool. And so, learning should never end. When the summer comes, don't say, okay, wow, it's over. No, you keep them engaged, because we have found, and all the research says, that downtime, particularly in the summer when you've got these large gaps, that children tend to regress. And so you want to keep that pump primed, like you said.
Yes.
Keep them learning. Either you're green and growing or you're ripe and rotten.
Oh.
And so we want to
Say
be
that again.
either you're green and growing or you're ripe and rotten. And so we want children to be green and growing. And so as I said, you keep pouring into children. It's like an investment. If you invest in your child, I applaud parents who are actively engaged in their children's lives.
Yes.
And it's so easy to use a device to take your place, but please don't do that. Stay engaged, stay involved. I would say I'm not going to let schools off easy now, because I tell folk all the time when schools say we want parents to be involved, but is that what you really want? Because if you really want parents to be involved, then you're going to invite them. You're going to have them come in, and you're not going to put up these barriers, to not make parents feel welcome in your classroom. If you want that collegiality, and if you want to work together with parents, then you extend that olive branch and say, you're welcome to come into my classroom anytime. You're welcome to call me at any time if you've got a problem. So don't let that first meeting be a negative meeting.
Right.
Let it be a positive, and then build off of that positive.
And then answer the emails when
yes. There's nothing worse than telling people to reach out to contact you, and then you don't respond.
You don't respond.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pet peeve of mine. When I was working here, we were the first school to have a website.
Okay.
In Florence 1, when I was principal at Williams, we were the first school to have a website. We were one of the first schools to have what we call, it was a phone line called SIN, Student Information Network, where parents could call in or kids could call in to say, hey, listen, you might want to know this. There's a fight that's going to happen or whatever. So we were one of the first to do that. I started the IB program here in Florence when I was working. So, I got a lot of skins on the wall. But none of these things would have happened if I hadn't been smart enough to know I don't know everything, but I can get information from other people. And schools have become silos, and that's the worst thing that could happen. You don't want to be a silo. You want to be open. You want to invite people in, and you may learn something from them while they're coming to learn something from you. And so, but most importantly, know your students, know their parents. That's the key to success.
Amen. I like that. Know your students. That's I'm raising children for the second time, and I'm almost at the end of it.
Aren't we all?
Yes, because TJ is now 18. He's a senior at West Florence. But I found that I like to email, okay? And when Octavius was going to Royal, I talked to the teacher and said, let's be a team. You're a team of teachers. team up with the family,
Right.
so that we can make the child a success story.
Right.
And that's when they really begin to
Yeah, yeah.
engage with
Yeah,
him.
if you as a parent let the teacher know that you're engaged, then you're gonna get back what you put in. And so if they know that you're engaging and that you want to know about your child's success, and don't call me when the problem happens, let me know the minute you see something getting ready to happen, you tend to be more successful, and it becomes a pleasant experience. It should never be, oh Lord, here they come. No, it's no. Oh yes, here they come, and I'm
Yes,
welcoming them, and I want them to be involved. So it's a partnership, and it will never be successful
that's
unless
right.
everybody's doing their part.
Amen. Amen. Well, Dr. Jackson, you have been so enlightening.
Thank you.
Thank you ever so much for joining us
I
here
appreciate
at
it.
Native Drums, and the doors swing open for you to come back
Well, I want to,
again.
before I finish, let me say this to you.
Sure.
As a child, I used to come out here to church. I was friends with the Cruises,
That's
Miss
right.
Hattie Cruz, and
That's
it was kind
right.
of like a second mom to me. And so I can remember coming here as a child, I think with Reverend Lund.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's how far back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's how far back I remember coming and listening to him. And I thought he was
Right.
he was just a riveting pastor. But I
Yes,
remember that
yes.
as a child coming here. So I do have some Savannah Grove roots.
Yeah, you have some roots here. All right. Welcome home.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you ever so much for joining us here at Native Drums. And we'll be back on next week, so make sure you tune in. This is Josilia Williams, sitting in for Dr. Ralph W. Canty, Sr., pastor of Savannah Grove Baptist Church. Have a great evening.